to George Michael meeting up the Beatles and falling in love with Jennifer Lee as a Beatle, to Jennifer Lee and George Michael's date, all the way up to George Michael owning Jennifer Lee's hair salon and George Michael and Jennifer Lee becoming best friends. I introduce to you George Michael bedtime stories. I hope you guys enjoy them.
Michael and the Beatles were two of the most iconic bands of the 1980s. They were both known for their catchy songs and their rebellious attitudes. In 1985, George Michael and the Beatles met up for a secret meeting. They were all excited to meet each other and to talk about music. At first, George Michael was a bit nervous about meeting the Beatles. He was a huge fan of theirs, and he didn't want to disappoint them. But as soon as he met them, he felt at ease. They were all very friendly and down to earth. They talked about music for hours. They shared stories about their careers and their personal lives. They even sang a few songs together. George Michael was blown away by their talent. He had never met anyone who could sing and play like they could. As the day went on, George Michael started to feel a connection to one of the Beatles. He was attracted to her personality and her talent. He found himself falling in love with her. He didn't know if she felt the same way, but he decided to take a chance. He told her how he felt. She was surprised, but she admitted that she felt the same way. They started dating shortly after that. They were very happy together. They spent a lot of time together, writing songs and playing music. They even wrote a few songs together. Their relationship was very public. They were often seen together at concerts and other events. They were one of the most talked about couples in the music industry. Their relationship eventually ended, but they remained friends. They continued to write songs and play music together. They even recorded a few songs together. George Michael and the Beatles' relationship was a very special one. It was a relationship that was based on mutual respect and admiration. It was a relationship that lasted for many years. George Michael and Jennifer Lee's first date was a disaster. They met at a coffee shop, but they didn't have much to talk about. They both felt awkward and out of place. After a few minutes, they decided to go their separate ways. They both felt relieved to be out of the situation, but they also felt a little disappointed. They both went home and thought about what went wrong. They realized that they had a lot in common, but they just didn't know how to connect with each other. They decided to try again. They met for a second date, but this time they were more prepared. They had a list of things to talk about, and they were more relaxed. This time, the date went much better. They had a great time talking and getting to know each other. They realized that they were compatible after all. They went on a few more dates, and they eventually fell in love. They got married and lived happily ever after. Jennifer Lee was a hairstylist at a popular salon. She was known for her creative and stylish cuts, and her clients loved her. One day, she was working on a client when she heard a commotion from the back of the salon. She turned to see George Michael, a young boy who was known for his mischievous antics, messing with the control board for the salon's lights and music. Jennifer quickly rushed over to stop him. "George, what are you doing?" she asked. George looked up from the control board, a mischievous grin on his face. "I'm just trying to make things more interesting," he said. Jennifer sighed. She knew she couldn't get mad at him. He was just a kid, but she also knew that he could cause a lot of damage if he wasn't careful. "George, this is a very sensitive piece of equipment," she said. "You could break it if you're not careful." George looked down at the control board. He didn't want to break anything. He just wanted to have some fun. "I'm sorry, Jennifer," he said. "I won't touch it again." Jennifer smiled. "That's a good boy," she said. "Now why don't you go play with something else?" George nodded and walked away. Jennifer watched him go, relieved that he hadn't caused any damage. She then turned her attention back to her client. She finished the haircut, and the client was very happy with the results. As Jennifer was cleaning up, she noticed a small piece of paper on the floor. She picked it up and saw that it was a drawing of a cat. It was a very good drawing, and Jennifer was impressed. She looked around the salon, but she couldn't see George anywhere. She wondered if he had drawn the picture. She decided to put the picture on the bulletin board in the salon. Maybe George would see it and be proud of his work. The next day, George came into the salon. He saw the picture on the bulletin board and his eyes lit up. "Did you draw this?" Jennifer asked. George nodded shyly. "It's a beautiful picture," Jennifer said. "You're very talented." George smiled. He was glad that Jennifer liked his picture. From that day on, George was much more careful around the control board. He still liked to play pranks, but he made sure they were harmless. And Jennifer, she was always happy to see George. She knew he was a good kid at heart.
I hope you guys liked the George Michael bedtime stories. Keep it here for more bedtime stories, guys.